Hey, beautiful people of the internet, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully great, and welcome back to another Warframe video. In today's one, we're taking a closer look at Grendel, aka the thick boy of Warframe, or the sumo wrestler of Warframe. Pick your poison. Now, I have already covered Grendel in a previous video where we go and take full advantage of Nourish, Roar, and the Sobek. This is going to be a high KPS build or high AoE damage, so if you guys like to know the details behind that particular video, I will be leaving a link down in the description, and of course I'll be suggesting it to you guys at the top right, so I highly recommend you guys go ahead and take a look at that particular video. With that being said, let's move on to the rest of the video. So just like every other build video, especially when the Warframe is relatively old, I always would like to go and skim through all of the abilities, including the passive. So if you want more details, I highly recommend just go and pause the video or do some more research on your own time. So we're going to be starting off with this passive, and basically the more enemies that you consume, the more armor you'll be getting back. So in this case, for every enemy that you consume, you'll be getting 250 base armor, which caps out at 5 enemies. Meaning that when you guys have a full gut, you're going to be rolling around with 1250 armor if your gut is full. So your first ability is known as Feast, and as the name does suggest, you consume the enemies by tapping the button, and then if you want to remove them or vomit them out, you can simply do that by holding it, and once you vomit the enemies out, it'll be coated with toxic. The toxic damage is not very powerful. The only reason why you want to use the first ability is just so that you can put enemies inside your gut and store them and use them for various things. Now remember, I know that it's very useful to have enemies in your gut, but because we're going to be dealing with damage, we're going to be consuming them, coating them in toxin, and then spitting them right out. Moving on to second ability, this is called Nourish. Now this is a popular helmet ability, so I'm sure you guys already know exactly what it does, but basically you're going to be able to go and spread viral to the surrounding area if the enemies decide to go and attack you. And as far as I know, if memory does serve me correctly, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty confident it does coat your weapons in viral. If not, one thing I can guarantee is that it definitely does spread viral to the enemies, because if you didn't know, viral actually has a massive multiplier on any type of damage that just gets hit after it gets procced. So if you have like 10 stacks of viral, you're probably looking at more than 300% additional multiplicative damage, I think, somewhere around there. Just because the fact that viral is considered a primer, not really too much of a damage, even though you can just strip the enemy's armor and then hit them with even more viral, they'll deal even more damage. But hey, viral these days is mostly used just for amplifying your damage. Moving on to the third ability, we're going to be calling it Pulverize, which allows you to curl up into a ball and just absolutely run over everybody. Physical hits reduces the armor of the enemy, so you just have to pretend that you are a bowling ball, and then you can just go and control the bowling ball, and then when you hit the enemies or run them over, you'll then be able to go and reduce their armor. Another thing I do want to mention is you can use all of Grendel's abilities while under the influence or the effects of Pulverize. So you can either hit them with your first, you can definitely hit them with Nourish, because remember, this is going to be based off if the enemy does attack you. And then the fourth ability, which is very similar to his first ability, except when you decide to go and spew out the enemies, not only does it fully armor strip the enemies, but it also causes toxic procs as well. Except this toxic proc is a lot more greater than the previous one from the first ability, because that's the whole point of what his fourth one does. Now we also are going to be running a new augment. I'll get to the details in that in the next part of the video, but essentially this augment will then be able to proc gas as well. So we're going to be dealing with both toxin and gas, where the enemies will be fully exposed to just they'll just remove their armor, because remember, when you hit the enemies with your fourth, you also fully strip the enemy's armor. So you fully strip the enemy's armor, which will then go and cause them to be poisoned, yet they'll be exposed to flesh. And then because we're going to be adding that augment, we're also going to be exposing them to gash damage, which will also spread throughout the entire map. So as for the build, as you guys can see, we currently have 2 Forma, but I do want to tell you guys that we are going to be running 2 Archon shards, just because the fact that we want a much better energy economy. One for even more energy max, and then another one just to increase it even further. Therefore we can hold more energy, and which will allow us to just spam our abilities even more without worrying about anything whatsoever. Now as for the build, If you guys didn't know, we've reinvested 2 Forma, and for the life of me, I can't exactly remember the details behind it because it's been such a long time since I've gone and played as Grendel, and I understand that Grendel Prime is out. But, you know, I haven't exactly been the most productive when it comes to Warframe, so regular Grendel is what we are going to be dealing with. And I mean, if you guys have Grendel Prime, the exact same mods can still apply. There's literally just a 3% difference when it comes to the... Anyways, for the build, we are going to be rolling around with Dreamer's Bond. Now, Dreamer's Bond actually gives us more health regeneration. The energy regeneration for the squad is actually quite redundant because we're going to be using Pulverize, which is an exalted based ability. If you didn't know, this is going to be a drain per second, so this is not going to affect it whatsoever. I mainly went with it just so we're going to get more health regeneration per second. Anyways, next up with the mods is we're going to be using Streamline for a better energy economy. Even though our energy economy is below 100%, that is still fine. We are doing our utmost best to keep our pants on. So Streamline and Rage both, you know, synergize well with each other because Streamline allows me to use a little bit less energy per cast even though it's quite low. Rage just allows me to convert all the damage that I receive directly to my health into energy. Therefore, I can just keep up all of my abilities without worrying about anything. And at the end of the day, you know, Grendel does have a lot of health, as you guys can tell. He's got around 1295 or 1300 by default without any vitality added whatsoever. And I mean, his armor by default is 370. And remember, thanks to his passive, I can have 1250 armor, assuming that my gut is filled. So we're good. Next up is we are going to be using Overextend to increase our area of effect. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, this is more of a nuke build because remember, you want to affect the entire area. With Overextend, this does exactly that at the cost of power strength. But I assure you, it's not too bad as we're only going to be using one mod to go and give us that high range. Next up is, because we don't want to die, is we're going to be using Adaptation, which will basically be giving us a 90% damage reduction to any type of damage that does get thrown at us. This synergizes really well with Rage and Streamline because A, we're getting our health back, B, we're reducing the amount of damage we're receiving so that way we can survive, and also C, we can go and use less energy per cost along with increasing our overall range. Next up is we are going to be using Primed Continuity to increase our ability duration. Now remember, we want to make sure that we have some duration because at the end of the day, Pulverize is an exalted based ability which will also be determined by the amount of duration we are currently rolling. The same can be said with Streamline. However, that's not going to be too much of an issue. That's all thanks to Rage. Prime Continuity is just for all of the other abilities, therefore they've got some sort of longevity to them. Next up is we are going to be using Precision Intensify to give us 90% on our 4th ability, and I'm referring to mainly Regurgitate because we're going to be using the Regurgitate Augment that was just released with Koumei and her update. The name of this augment is called Gastro, and essentially what happens is that once you start spitting at the enemy's back, you know, once you start activating Regurgitation, you'll be spitting back at the enemies from your gut, but instead of only having toxin, you'll be able to release these gas clouds which will then go and, you know, gas the enemies to death. Now the gas clouds are relatively effective. I've actually nuked multiple rooms and it is such an effective tool when it comes to killing the enemies. Because when you activate Regurgitation, you're going to be stripping the enemy's armor, and then on top of that, you'll be able to go and, you know, eat right through that flesh. And on top of the gas and corrosive damage that you're going to be receiving, you'll be able to go and proc Toxin as well. So Gastro is a brand new augment, and I think it's quite an interesting augment, and I did generally believe that it's worth the video, so here we are. And finally, to summarize everything, we are going to be using Blind Rage, which will increase our overall strength and will decrease, well, at the cost of efficiency. Once again, it's not too much of an issue. That's all thanks to Rage, Streamline, and of course Adaptation. And when it comes to even more energy, we are going to be moving on to the Arcanes department, which is going to allow us to have Arcane Energized and Arcane Steadfast. I understand that these Arcanes are quite expensive, but we've had so many opportunities to go and get them. There's literally no excuse out there where people can go and spend real money and then go and buy these Arcanes. Now granted, they may be pretty pricey, especially when you go and grind out all the platinum, But hey, if you don't want to spend your platinum, you're going to have to spend time. Alright, so we're currently in the simulacrum. Let me show you guys exactly how this particular build does perform. So first and foremost, we're going to spawn in some enemies, get some energy. So the first order of business, go and consume these enemies, ensure that your gut is fully filled. This will also allow us to activate Nourish. Activate your second ability, let the enemy start attacking you, then you can hit them with Viral. Then go into your number 3. It's also worth noting that you can use any of your abilities while in this particular state. Doesn't matter which one, just want to let you guys know. Once you guys are ready, simply just go and hit them with your 4th, that being Gastro, and you can absolutely just, gas them to death or poison them to death. And then once again, just rinse and repeat. So just make sure that you've got your gut filled up, make sure they do attack you, get them viral stacks up, and there you guys can see they are absolutely getting poisoned to death. Now I'll be honest with you guys, sometimes the damage is quite weird, but that's only because you have to make sure that Nourish is up. Nourish is the only reason why you're able to go and deal so much damage, because remember, Viral absolutely multiplies your damage substantially. As you guys can tell, I have just one-shot him, and that's all thanks to, Grendel's 4th ability. Grendel's 4th ability, remember, does armor strip the enemies. Let's do that one more time. So we're going to simulate the enemies, fill them up with our gut, make sure that there's 5 of them. I prefer to have them. Make sure that our, Nourish is up so we can proc them with Viral when they attack us. Once that happens, you can then roll into your ball and then start spitting at them. And in doing so, you'll be able to just absolutely spam them with viral attacks, or not viral, with the gas attacks, and then just absolutely poison them. And the class clouds stay there for a while. So most of your damage purely depends on, hey, have I hit them with Nourish? If so, then I should attack. If I haven't hit them with Nourish, then I can actually completely forget about it. So once again, make sure that they have 10 stacks of viral, go into your ball form, and then start absolutely spraying them with gas clouds. And as you guys can tell, we've just nuked the room and they're no longer alive. And you guys can just simply take this guy and store him in your gut. Now, you don't necessarily need to be in the ball form. I just think it's quite fun being in the ball form and just spitting on everybody. Like either absorbing them, spitting at them, absorbing them, spitting at them. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I make some pretty awesome Warframe content. So if you guys would like to go from 0 to hero as fast as humanly possible, I highly recommend you guys go ahead and take a look at the rest of my videos. There'll be some links down in the description to some playlists, to some videos. Of course, they are Warframe related. We do have some non-Warframe related videos out there. I am still trying to get back into Black Myth Wukong, but there's currently a lot of Warframe content to cover this video or this update. So I'm going to be making quite a few Warframe videos. So once again, if you want to go and level up quickly, take a look at the rest of my videos. There'll be some suggested to you guys to the top right, to top left. I don't know where YouTube puts them. I think they put on the top right. The point is you won't be able to miss them. And I highly recommend you guys go ahead and take a look at the rest of those videos. Do remember to leave a like on this video. It always helps me out substantially. Spot and click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. I'm like the banana and split. See you guys in the next Warframe video. I'm out. Peace and have a lovely weekend.